Nice to see you. So many familiar faces. I'm very excited to welcome Breege here tonight to be our presenter from the Grant Selection Committee. Tonight we are focusing on Educate the Children and Grandmother Project, so Nepal and Senegal. And Breege is going to present both of those. Breege is in the Philadelphia area in a very well attended and a very passionate chapter up there in one of the Weaver's Way chapters. And she's just, you're going to love hearing from her. So if you haven't been on one of these before, please note that up in the top corner of your video, there is a little button that says unmute or mute. Please keep yourself muted while there is presenting going. Also, I want to draw your attention to the chat at the bottom of your screen so that this is where we want you to introduce yourself, talk, ask questions to us, and we will also be posting links in there as well. And Wendy Fradlin, who for me, she's right in the center there, she's waving. She's our Director of Communications and Membership. And we also have Sheila Whittle on. She can wave. She's our administrative coordinator. And I think I know almost all of you. And this is a smaller group, so we might be able to have more of a conversation. And I know that everybody has so much to contribute with lots of different backgrounds that we have. So I'm just very happy to see all of you tonight. Is there anything else that I need to add? I normally have my list in front of me, but I think we're on our 6th one, so I'm kind of hoping that I covered all the housekeeping. And with, you're on mute, Wendy. With that, I think we'll turn it over to Breege.
Oh. Okay, you ready?
No?
You want to do the dinner affirmation?
Oh, yes, thank you. Is there anyone here, since we have a small group, who would like to do the dinner affirmation? Would like to say it? Okay. Nobody's raising their hand. Oh my goodness, I will do it. All right, our dinner affirmation. Even though it's not, you may not have dinner in front of you, this is the spirit in which we come to our chapter meetings at Dining for Women. As we share food, we share something of ourselves and we honor each other. We recognize the powerful associations of women to food, life, and nurture in all cultures. We honor the importance of those. We also recognize the burdens they can bring. We remember the women about whom we've learned, the ones they strive to nurture, and the organizations that are trying to nurture them. By eating together, we remember and honor those women who also have favorite foods and family recipes. And we express the hope that through our efforts, they may find more sustenance for their lives. May we all be able to feast together someday. And I don't know if any of you made the chickpea fudge that was part of our recipes this month. We haven't made it in my house. I'm waiting to hear how it is. Has anyone made that this month? No? Okay. All right. I'm going to have to make it. I'm going to ask.
I think I'll have to try it too.
I've been making black bean brownies, white bean brownies, and pinto bean brownies.
Oh, that sounds like a gastronomic Um, yeah, I mean, I think they would be good. I like to have vegetables in my sweets, like zucchini and carrots. So, so, I'll bet beans are good. And probably the chickpea fudge is going to be awesome. So, Breeze, do you want to start with Educate the Children?
Sure. Okay. Thank you. Hello, everybody. Greetings from Philadelphia, from our chapter in Philadelphia, the Weaver's Way. I'm just really delighted to be here to talk about this program that I loved when it was going through the selection. So I'm going to start with just talking about Nepal briefly. It's one of the most beautiful places in the world and one of the most disadvantaged. If any of you have been there, you'll remember the breathtaking views of the Himalayas, but also the poverty, the smog that you find in Kathmandu, the blackouts. And at the same time, you've come across the wonderfully resilient people who are very kind and will give you their last morsel of food if you're their guest. It's a tiny country wedged between India and China, and it's mostly mountainous country, about the size of Arizona, the state of Arizona. And you probably will remember that it had a civil war for a long time in the 90s and early 200s with a Maoist insurgency that really set back its economy, which was already not developed. That was pretty much settled in 2008 and when the country established a democracy for the first time. And it was moving along pretty well until 2015 when they suffered a really devastating earthquake. And they're still trying to recover from that. About 1/4 of the population lives below the poverty line, and about 80% of the adults are low-paid agricultural employees of wealthier landowners, and they really struggle to supply nutritious food for their families. In Ramduni municipality, where the project is situated, which is in southeast Nepal, about 220 miles from Kathmandu. It's officially considered a literate municipality, but our grantee, Educate the Children, learned from the women that they were interviewing in the initial survey that really most of them are illiterate. So more than half of that total population of Ramduni lives in extreme poverty with annual incomes as low as $540. In 2016, 36% of the children were considered to suffer from stunted growth, and virtually all of them were from poor and uneducated backgrounds. So food insecurity is a major issue for most families. Only 31% of households raise enough food for 9 months or more of the year, and 55% raise just enough to cover 4 months worth of food needs. In addition to that, what happens with such poverty is that many people take out high interest loans, one after one to pay off another, and they get into a cycle of debt and poverty that's very difficult for them to get out of. In February 2019, the project team, when they were laying groundwork for this project, found that only 16% of households that they surveyed had no debt at all. So you have hunger, you have crippling debt, and illiteracy, and each of those feeds on the other and making the situation worse. And I really haven't mentioned gender equality, which always accompanies these kinds of conditions. And food insecurity, we know, is also the basis of many other problems that we see facing women and girls. It usually means there's no money to pay school fees, and children remain out of school, especially girls. It becomes more difficult for desperate parents to protect their children from child marriage, from indentured servitude, or from being trafficked with promises of a good job and education, all of which are significant problems in Nepal. So Educate the Children, this month's featured grantee, has been working in Nepal for the past 20 years. It was founded by American Pamela Carson and her friends, who, like many of the organizations that we fund, she was traveling in Nepal and she was struck by the need. Initially, they focused on children's education, but they soon discovered that unless they educated the mothers, they really could not be successful in their work. So since the mid-90s, they've focused on 3 main areas: women's empowerment, children's education, and sustainable agricultural development. This project that Dining for Women funded falls into that third area of sustainable agricultural development, which really very much supports the other two. It addresses the food insecurity, and the remedy will increase the women's empowerment and the children's access to education. So what will the project do? 1,000 women from the most disadvantaged backgrounds will receive training and resources to establish and maintain or improve, if they haven't already, a kitchen garden. They'll grow vitamin-rich food year-round. ETC will start by, they always start by establishing women's groups of 15 to 25 each, who meet monthly, and they support each other as they develop skills. The horticultural skills and literacy skills and leadership skills. They contribute every month at their meetings to, and it's just a tiny amount at first, just whatever they can afford. They contribute to a microcredit fund so that they can have access to loans to expand the operations as they begin to grow their gardens. Each group will elect a leader farmer who will attend ongoing horticultural trainings and bring that information back to the groups. ETC will establish 4 demonstration farms for hands-on training throughout the years of the project. And the women will be encouraged, in addition to their kitchen gardens, to market excess produce. Once they start doing that, they immediately increase their income by about 2 to 3% a year at first. And eventually, as they expand those market gardening operations, the groups will be guided to form cooperatives so that they can increase their selling power. And then for anyone who's interested beyond that, there'll be training in developing and managing livestock. About 420 women are expected to participate in the livestock training each year. And that's around raising chickens, goats, pigs, and fish. And then about 240 women in the project will receive tools and equipment to more effectively irrigate their gardens so that they can expand their growth. And in the second year of the project, the ETC offers an animal health camp, so that, and they expect that they will have about 3,000 animals owned by about 300 women's groups members. They'll bring their animals to receive health assessments, vaccines, medications, and quick outpatient medical procedures, all intended to enhance the operation of raising good, healthy livestock. And included in all of this will be resources, training and resources to develop the literacy and leadership skills and competence so that the women can manage the activities on their own. Because the whole purpose is to create a sustainable agricultural development, and ETC can then move on to another area and do the same thing. The budget is $50,000 out of an overall budget of $105,874, and it will be distributed over 2 years. 17,000 of that budget will be for staff salaries and benefits. 13,000 will be for supplies and for the activities, the training activities that will go on, and for tools and for seeds. 18,000 will be for the livestock production and management activities, again, including supplies, materials for building, animal housing, and supports for to raise starter chicks or kids or pigs or fish, whatever it is that they're raising. And then the rest is just a small amount for equipment and supplies and utilities, and for travel within Nepal, for printing and publication. So why did we love this project? It was very popular with the grant committee. And among the reasons for that were that it's a very comprehensive program that not only improves food security, but it increases income and builds those additional skills in literacy and leadership, as well as farming. ETU lays considerable groundwork before they get the project up and running. they work first with a local partner to build trust and to establish the women's groups before they even come in to provide the services. They also use them to get the word out about the services. And so people are more likely to respond to that local group. Before they even applied for the grant to Dining for Women, they had conducted 3 investigative visits to the Ramduni area. To make sure that this was a good place and that they would be accepted in this place and that their work would be successful. They stay in the area for 5 years. They've only asked us for funding for 2 years, but the project, which will begin this July in Ramduni, will continue for 5 years. And that is so that they can really ensure that the services that they are helping to get started will be really solidly developed and will be able to be sustained after they leave. And then in addition to that, they do extensive evaluation so that they can find out what they're doing right and what they can change and what needs to be done. They were able to demonstrate in their application to us really good results from former other projects because they've worked in other parts of Nepal on this. In an independent evaluation that they did in 2009, they found that 100% of the women's groups members that they surveyed were still raising food in their kitchen gardens. Intake of vitamin A had increased significantly. And women's group members reported an average annual income increase of 50% or more for many, primarily due to their profitable agricultural activities. So they'd expanded beyond their kitchen gardens. And then from a 2019 study, they reported an increase in vegetable sufficiency throughout the year, a more diversified diet. They've now added, in addition to potatoes and greens, they now were growing cauliflowers, cabbages, tomatoes, broccoli, and turnips, with positive change in household health and excess vegetables to sell. Members of their women's groups had helped them develop their skills and knowledge related to income generating and run a kitchen garden with a variety of seasonal vegetables. They were very pleased to be able to read and write and can now produce and sell vegetables on a larger scale. And of course, as they're doing this, their leadership increases, they're more involved in community and community building and community development, and they're more respected. And then their equality, their gender equality improves as well. And of course, as I had mentioned at the beginning, they then are able to educate their children, have their children educated. So those are all the reasons why we thought that it was a really comprehensive and sustainable and project that would bring about systemic change, we felt. So Wendy, if you or Beth Ellen, if you'd like to talk about the COVID-19 and how they're dealing with that.
Thank you, Wendy. She's unmuting me. I thought we could first just see if anyone has any questions for you, Briege, or anything to add to the conversation about ETC.
I had a question. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. If we're funding for the first 2 years, who are you hoping will fund for the last 3? So it'll be 5 years.
They have funding from an organization in Switzerland. Actually, they don't tell us who's funding for the other 3 years, but this is our budget. The budget that we supported of $50,000 is just half of what they are having for the 2 years. And the other half, or it's $55,874, is coming from Fondation Pro Victimes in Geneva, Switzerland, and then donations from individuals for agricultural programs. And then they also have some funding in the bank. They've clearly been able to raise adequate funding for 20 years, so I don't know exactly where it will come from, but probably from similar sources.
I see. Thank you.
Thank you, Margie. Any other questions?
I have one.
Hi, Renee.
I have one. Hi, Bethel. I would like to know, you were talking about the literacy issue. How, in fact, does this program help address that problem?
It's not integral to the agricultural part of it, but my understanding is that at the monthly meetings of the groups, that the staff provides literacy training. They also train the leader farmers, and I think they give them more intensive training in these areas. And those are kind of self-selected women, and then they work with the women's groups to help them learn, but they're supported by the staff.
Thank you.
I'm sure sorry, we also have Mary Ellen wants to, sorry, Mary Ellen had texted.
I want to make a comment.
Oh, yes, hi, Mary Ellen.
Hi. Mary Ellen's my official name. Most people call me Mellon. I just wanted to say that I think you did a great presentation of the overview and background of Nepal. I've been working in Nepal quite a bit recently, in the past few years, and you did a nice job describing it. One additional factor that it hinders development in some ways and helps in others is the huge number of young men who go abroad to work. And they work in places like Singapore, where they're now having problems with COVID-19, and Qatar and many other countries, but they leave women alone with the household and the land and the children to care for everything. So a project like this is of enormous help so that women can be empowered to have some income and some power. I was involved in evaluating a program that has, it's a large nutrition program in Nepal, and it has an element to improve dietary diversity, very much like this particular project. And this project has a lot of the same features as that program, but I think that the livestock camp is a great innovation because one of the difficulties is for women in remote areas to get services for their from veterinary technicians or veterinarians, like to vaccinate their chickens and other things. So I think that camp is a very good innovation. It has been shown in Nepal and elsewhere that if you do diversify agricultural production, as this program is doing, it does improve diets, which then improves health of women and children. So the other evidence supports what this group ETC is saying from their evaluations. So I'm really happy that we approved this, and this is our monthly grantee. I think it's a great one too. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I would like to piggyback on Mel's comment. I was a tourist in Nepal, and my friend, who is a local Nepalese, said if they'd quit having strikes, the country could probably operate. So we arrived at the airport early because there was a strike that day, and it was the only way we could get to the airport was on a bus that was several hours early. And my vivid memory is about 100 men sitting on the floor in the same colored t-shirt with a baseball cap. And that's the first time I'd ever really heard the word remittance workers. They were leaving the country to send paychecks back home. And of course, the young ones were very excited, and you could tell it was probably their first trip out, but the older ones looked very resigned and very tired. And I just thought that's a heck of a way to have a family, is send the husband away for years at a time or months at a time, and then leave the wife to pick up all the other pieces.
Thanks for your comment, Ellen. Betsy Teutsch, also on our board. Renee Losh and Betsy Teutsch on our board here this evening.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for Breege and I we were founders of our chapter, and it's 8 years old by now. So it's exciting to see the role that she's taken on. I recently wrote a book about post-harvest techniques to reduce post-harvest losses. That's like a whole sector of agriculture. And it's a little wonky, but I just thought I would point out some things about this slide that we're looking at, which is, if you look closely, that is a poly greenhouse. They call them all kinds of different things, but there's you see there's like scaffolding, and it's a poly enclosed area, and that's very cutting edge. And you can imagine all the benefits. It is climate controlled to some extent. It protects the sunscreen there. It gives the sunscreen, and it means that they need a lot less water to irrigate the crops, and they also need a lot fewer pesticides to grow the crops, or they can even grow them organically because the pests are not allowed in. And also, look at, if you see, they have trellising there made out of the bamboo. That is a technique for growing vertically, and it's much more effective. And that also helps to control rot, because when all the crops are on the ground, a lot of them get covered up and then spoil. So they're using some really they're obviously getting good agricultural extension services to show them how to do all these things, because they really increase the yield. And being part of women's groups is really great for female farmers, because their access to training is so limited. But this way, when they are part of a group, they can get more attention, and that results in better yield, which results in more food and more money. So it's great.
Thank you, Betsy. And I just wanted to add to go back to Betsy's comment on the literacy. I think that most of the projects that we support, while they may be focusing on the project may focus on one issue, and even the organization may focus on one issue. Just like any social service outreach, there is no way to just focus on one issue. So even if that's not their expertise in literacy, they are working in that. They may be partnering with other organizations. I always like to think about Jenny Schechter's organization in Togo that presented last week, Integrate Health, that when they started sending out women community health workers, they were able to intervene in untold numbers of domestic violence cases, and were able to reduce domestic violence. Even though that was not their mission, it obviously became of importance to them, because they couldn't get the health care they needed to these families unless they addressed this issue first. So things like that are happening with all of our projects. And with that, I want, Wendy, you can play the video. Thanks.
There are many challenges facing women and families in rural Nepal. One of these challenges is food security, or having enough food. Families in rural Nepal must raise as much of their own food as they can. But many families can currently raise only enough food to last them 4 or fewer months out of the year. A second challenge is ensuring adequate nutrition. In 2016, 36% of Nepal's young children suffered from stunted growth. Rates are higher yet among the poorest and most marginalized families. More nutritious food will help them do well in school and grow into strong, healthy adults. challenge is extreme and cyclical poverty. Many families subsist on a few $100s per year. Rural areas are heavily agrarian and not very economically diverse. Agriculture is a very important income source for most families. Many people work long hours for low pay in the fields of wealthy landowners. These marginalized families have not had the opportunities to learn how to make better lives for themselves. Many families must send members to work in cities or overseas, sometimes in dangerous jobs. Even so, many rural families live on the economic margins and have gone into debt just to survive. Not enough food. The need for more nutritious food. And cyclical poverty. Wouldn't it be wonderful if there was a way to tackle all three of these difficult challenges at once? There is ETC's Sustainable Agricultural Development Program. ETC works intensively for a period of several years in villages where we are invited to come. Our staff agricultural specialists live locally and are very accessible to help women learn to raise more nutritious food and earn more money doing it. ETC offers a variety of horticultural training activities every year. All ETC Women Group members start kitchen gardens and maintain them year-round. Their families can then eat more fresh and nutritious food, and many raise enough produce to sell the excess at market. Many women start larger-scale market gardening businesses, enable them to double or even triple their household incomes. Women learn to cultivate a variety of healthy vegetables, as well as new high-value crops such as mushrooms, chilies, and fruits. Our trainings emphasize practical, hands-on application of skills and information. The women participate enthusiastically, asking many questions along the way to get the most out of their experience. We emphasize eco-friendly methods, including composting and non-chemical pest control. ETC's livestock training activities help women learn to raise poultry, goats, and other animals for family nutrition and income. Women can sell eggs, milk, breeding animals, or meat. Trainings include information and resources for the proper feeding and housing of animals. The immediate and long-term benefits of ETC's work are truly life-changing. The knowledge, skills, and confidence gained don't wear out or expire. Women continue to raise more and better food long after their participation with ETC. Many increase their household incomes by 25 to 50% or more. A woman named Indra Maya told us that before ETC came to her village, she and her family could grow only a few different types of food and only enough for a few months. Now they grow more food year-round and sell whatever the family doesn't consume. Nutrition also improves significantly. For example, vitamin A intake increases considerably when women grow more leafy green vegetables. Vitamin A deficiency is common in rural Nepal and particularly affects children and pregnant women. It is associated with vision loss, reduced immunity to infections, and stunted growth, among other health problems. Families who have subsisted by taking out one high-interest loan to pay off another also benefit greatly. Women who increase their household incomes and eventually family savings will get and stay out of debt and become more income secure for years to come. Women surveyed for a 2019 ethnographic study in one of our past villages reported that their increased household incomes allowed them to keep their children in school, helping to break the cycle of poverty for future generations. Women gain greater personal confidence and social status, have more equitable partnerships with their husbands, and take on more extensive public roles, including running for political office. ETC wishes to extend a huge thank you to Dining for Women for your generous support of our work in the Sunsari district beginning in 2020. The lives of 1,000 women and their children, families, friends, and neighbors will be changed for the better because of their own hard work and determination and your support.
I just love that video. I think that they did a really, really nice job with it. Breeze, is there anything that you wanted to add?
No, I didn't mention, and I was glad that they did in the video, that the next step as the livelihoods of the women and their families improves is the running for political office, and that they had begun to do that already in some of the projects, which is wonderful next step to that equality that we're looking for.
I think that when the projects mention that is, because this is happening with a lot of our projects, that ultimately the women are running for political office, and it really demonstrates that research that when women are educated, when women are empowered, their families are more peaceful, their relationships more equitable, and then when they are at the table, particularly the political table, they're able to broker better situations for their community. And then ultimately, when more women are at the table, at the peace table, peace happens faster, peace lasts longer. And I think that it just shows that we are helping, like, right at the very roots, and helping to being one of the first stepping stones to get women to ultimately change the way the world works for women. And I think that this project just shows that from A to Z so clearly. So I wanted to show you, if I can just show you a little bit from the Ministry of Home Affairs in Nepal, how they're doing with COVID-19, particularly in the area where ETC is located. So I just shared it. Hopefully you can see this. So here's Nepal, and let me make it a little bigger. Here's Bhutan. Ellen, who's on this call, Ellen Williams and I got to visit there last summer. But the district that ETC is located in is right down here in Province 1. And you can see that actually Province 1 only has very few cases. Let's see, this one says that there's one active case there and two active cases down further east, southeast. So here we can look at the various provinces that there are in province 1, quarantine 1,735, total returnees in province 1 is 11,000, and only 17 people have been denied entry. And I'm not sure exactly what total quarantine bed means. Does anyone have any insight into how that, I mean, it could either mean they're either, that's how many are available, or it could mean that that's how many are in a hospital in a quarantine bed. So I'm not sure exactly what that means. But if you want to explore this site further, this is one of the best sites I've seen for our grantees. It's covid19.ndrrma.gov.np. I'll just copy it and put it in the chat. How about that?
I did, Bethel.
You did? Okay, great, thanks. And so you can, many of you have traveled through Nepal, you can explore through there. This is a really great site, and you can explore more what some of these things mean. I think that Nepal is doing very well. Of course, you know, sometimes it's hard to tell with the testing. I think all countries are struggling with the testing. But they shut down very early, and so here I have some more information about that. Okay, I'm having a hard time bringing this up. Okay, here we go. It's not coming up. It's not coming up for me. I'm sorry. I had another site for you to look at. I have a little bit more information on Senegal. So, Breege, why don't you go ahead and talk about Grandmother Project, which is one of our most beloved grantees. And just a reminder to everybody that our sustained grantees are some of our most special grants because they're 3-year-long grants. And these are past featured grantees. They are invited because they're invited to apply because they have had extraordinary results. They work with us really well, and they're well loved by our members. And so, Breege, you can take it away.
Sure. Okay. All right. The project is called Strengthening Communication Between Generations of Girls and Women to Promote Girls' Holistic Development. The Grandmother Project, I think, as Beth Ellen said, is very special. I think it makes, just the title itself makes us smile. It's a very unique, it emphasizes the inclusion of elders and especially grandmothers, and is focused on strengthening the communication between generations, and using methods that promote dialogue and consensus building to encourage community-wide support for positive change. They were the featured grantee in 2015, and the original project combined two forces, grandmothers and adolescent girls, to create a unique and powerful dynamic. While the project was significantly for the benefit of the girls, the focus was on the grandmothers as agents of change, to engage them and their respected status in their respected status in the community, and the wisdom that they'd acquired over the years to become champions of the girls. The project was set in Velingara in the Vélingara area in southern Senegal, quite a long way from Dakar, the capital, in a place where 3 major problems hinder girls' development: early marriage, childhood marriage, teenage pregnancy, and female genital mutilation, or FGM. The project staff just had an idea of harnessing that respect and that power and that influence that the grandmothers had in the community, and to use it to influence social attitudes and behaviors towards the girls, and so that they could really change the way things were for the girls. They're key, the grandmothers are key to this program because they have respect in their villages, both with the elders and with the young women. They're the repositories of culture and tradition and customs in the villages, and their sons find it very hard to refuse them. So if they ask, they are much more likely to succeed than many others, and they're also revered by the young girls. So they're the perfect agent for bringing about this change. The project leaders knew that if the grandmothers could be brought to see the harm of FGM and early marriage and the benefits of more education, that their voices would be heard. So that project focused on training existing grandmother leaders to be trainers of other grandmothers, and they set out to first train them and then to help those grandmothers to conduct workshops in and train about 300 more grandmothers in 30 villages, where they would share opinions about early marriage and teen pregnancy and boy-girl relationships. And they would learn new information about sexual and reproductive health and discuss their ideas on what they can do to create a better environment for the girls that would encourage education and protect them from harmful influences. Because part of what was pushing them towards early marriage was the sense that they were living in a predatory environment, and that they would become pregnant without being married if they were in school. So protection of the girls was also an important part of it. Those workshops were also open to village leaders and teachers and religious leaders, to girls, and parents could participate in the sessions too, because they were designed to educate and to open channels of communication. So this project was so successful, and as Beth Ellen said, that they were invited to become to apply for a sustaining grant, and that is the sustaining grant is to expand and strengthen the Grandmothers Project, the girls' holistic development, and to promote the girls' education, and again to try and decrease child marriage and teenage pregnancy and FGM. To continue to achieve these goals, the project will convene a series of all-women intergenerational forums with the girls, the mothers and grandmothers, and female teachers to discuss these topics and how to use them to improve the girls' well-being and education. They will be open and in-depth discussions intended to strengthen and reinforce the grandmothers' roles as the culturally designated advisors and advocates for the girls, and to contribute to the community-wide dialogue for changing social norms on these issues. The project this time, the sustaining project, will impact 495 women and girls, and will indirectly impact 1,800 in the community. So the budget will be $16,000 as part of the salary of the project manager, $3,000 for methodology development and lessons learned, $22,500 for the monitoring and evaluation officer, and $33,500 for the all women international forums with the girls, mothers and grandmothers and teachers. So that's for a total of $75,000 over 3 years. So you can see that it is really intended to consolidate the gains and to really help this organization to continue and expand the work that it's doing. Senegal, as you know, is a small country in West Africa that surrounds on three sides the country of Gambia, and then on the north is bordered by Mauritania, I think, and on the west by Mali, and on the south, I forget, Guinea or Guinea-Bissau. It is a very poor country, and it's mostly, as opposed to Nepal, which is mostly mountainous, it's mostly flat land. It's semi-desert in the north and in the north and northeast, and has forests in the southwest. I think that's about all that I need to say. It's just a project that has been, I think, dear to our hearts from the beginning. Are there any questions? Oh, okay.
You want to watch the video about?
Okay.
If you have questions, just type them in the chat, and
Grandmother Project promotes girls' holistic development. Grandmother Project's mission is to improve the health and well-being of women and children, especially that of girls. The Vélingara area is one of the poorest and most underdeveloped regions of Senegal. It is far from the capital city, Dakar. People live in villages. Most are farmers. Paved roads are rare, and travel is very difficult during the rainy season. Young girls face various challenges which limit their development, education, and rights. Lack of support for girls' education, early forced marriage, teenage pregnancy, and female genital mutilation. Two other issues affect girls' development: the loss of cultural identity and values, and the breakdown in communication between generations. The 4 pillars of Grandmother Project's approach are building on cultural values and strengths, involving elders, especially grandmothers, strengthening communication between generations, and using communication methods that promote dialogue and consensus building. To address these challenges, Grandmother Project developed the Girls Holistic Development Program. Objectives: decrease child marriage, decrease teen pregnancy, decrease female genital mutilation. Increase support for girls' education, strengthen communication between girls, mothers, and grandmothers, and strengthen girls' knowledge of positive cultural values. Our approach reflects the reality of Senegalese village life for women and young girls who are embedded within extended families. The Onion model illustrates why girls cannot change things like child marriage or FGM on their own. Everyone in the family and community needs to be involved if there is to be real change. GMP uses participatory learning activities to promote girls' holistic development, including intergenerational forums, all-women forums, under the tree sessions, and integrating positive cultural values into schools. While girls face several challenges and problems, they are lucky that there is an important resource to support them in all communities, the grandmothers. GMP is the first organization that identifies the grandmother resource to support girls' development. GMP is grateful for an earlier grant we received to develop a strategy to empower grandmother leaders. GMP organized training with 230 grandmother leaders from 43 different villages. In groups of 10, these grandmother leaders participated in numerous learning activities. The results were overwhelmingly positive. Increased confidence among grandmothers, increased solidarity among grandmother leaders, increased knowledge of the risks of teen pregnancy, early marriage, and FGM, and improved communication between grandmothers and adolescent girls. GMP is pleased to be recognized for a sustained grant to support our work over the next 3 years. The new funding will be used to continue to promote positive change for girls with these 3 key elements: strengthening communication between girls, mothers, and grandmothers, supporting program management, and supporting program monitoring and evaluation. Last year, GMP developed the All Women Forum to strengthen communication between girls, mothers, grandmothers, and female teachers. This is now a key element of our Girls Holistic Development Program. DFW support will also contribute to the salary of Mamadou Koulibaly and Famata Balde for project management, coordination, and evaluation. In this way, GMP is building the capacity of Africans to manage the community programs now and in the future. Since 2008, very positive results have been reported in the 48 villages where Grandmother Project has been working, including the average age of marriage has increased from 15 to almost 17. Grandmother leaders are now actively promoting abandonment of FGM in their communities. Teen pregnancies have greatly decreased, and school dropouts by girls due to teen pregnancy and child marriage have significantly decreased.
We very much want to thank Dining for Women for your continued support to Grandmother Project in our efforts to empower women and girls by promoting girls' holistic development in Senegal. Thank you.
Were there any, I was really digging the music in the Grandmother Project video. I think that we need to consider finding some music like that for that little ending part for our Dining for Women slides. Don't you think, Preesh?
Yeah, good idea. It was great.
I just had a comment.
Grandmothers to influence our culture too.
Yeah.
We would love to support, instead of having a DVD, but would you ever have a health session or I have a computer, I have a television, but I don't know how to put the two of them together. And maybe if there's kind of a help page or something for some of us who are more technologically challenged. Just
Ellen, every TV and computer is different, and that's not something that we can really. You're going to have to find someone locally to help you with that. I'm so sorry.
We'll work on it.
Okay, yeah.
I was wondering what the challenges were for the Grandmother Project on their accomplishments, because I know those aren't easy things to overcome culturally. Do they talk about that?
I don't know. Beth Ellen, you may know more about that than I do.
So you mean that how do they overcome those culture, like how they're addressing issues like FGM and
right.
Getting people to talk about it?
Right. I know they said they were successful in it, but I don't know what that means. I don't know.
Well, my understanding is that when they teach the grandmothers the effects of FGM or doing different or education for girls and putting off marriage, that the grandmothers are really interested in helping their granddaughters, and then they are continuing to have conversations with them. And I think it's just an ongoing conversation that they have. There's not like a story or a particular trick. I think it's about relationship building.
So I know in some of our other programs, they've had to overcome, with grandmothers with the genital female mutilation, they had to figure out how, because the grandmothers were getting paid for it, and they had to overcome that. So I was just curious if there was any more in depth on
Yeah, I think that
successes here.
The Grandmother Project came and presented a few months ago, several months ago now, to us, and I just was really so impressed with what they're doing that it seemed like any place that where an organization or people are trying to overcome some of these patriarchal traditional practices, that the method of the Grandmother Project would be amazing. And so they are actually getting requests to expand this into other countries. And I think that that's really great, because I can think of other projects of ours, like if you think of Batonga in Benin, that they could really, they're doing things like giving alternate ceremonies for girls to come of age instead of FGM. But think if they added in the grandmother component. And, that's not really for us to impose on them, but, one of our dreams is to be able to bring our grantees together more to share practices and things like that. So maybe someday we'll be able to do that, and they'll be able to, grow these things themselves, and maybe we'll be able to participate in that with them with some new innovative ideas. That's the dream.
Great dream.
Lindy has a comment that she'd like to make.
Lindy, you're on mute.
My audio there. Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
One of the things that we discuss at our grant selection committee meetings is how will our membership respond to this project? And I think even though we would like to see many more younger members, we have a lot of grandmas in our membership. And this project really resonates. It does for me. Grandmas love their granddaughters and want the best for them. And I think this is true the world over. And so it's I'm passionate about this project. I love it. I love the way the grandmothers are encouraged to become outspoken advocates for their granddaughters' education and avoiding early marriage and ending FGM. So I'm really pleased that it was selected as a sustained grant.
I think it's a really wonderful program as well. I'm very pleased. I have a little information about Senegal, not a lot, and COVID-19, but first I wanted to tell you, if you happen to research, and maybe you saw some memes on Facebook that in Senegal, 7 children died from a mass vaccination in April, that is false. I can give you here, I'm going to copy the link for that. There was, I would encourage you to go to this link if you accidentally saw that message, or you saw that message and thought, oh my God, there was somebody who was going around selling cosmetics who had a Ministry of Health t-shirt on, and it just got really weird from there. So anyway, I just want to dispel any rumors about that in Senegal. So, but one of the cool things that's happening in Senegal right now is they're one of the countries that has used its AIDS and Ebola experience to develop a $1 costing COVID-19 testing kit. And so they are also working on vaccinations there. And you may know that that there are about 70 vaccines in the work for COVID-19, and 4 of the most promising are already being tested, and the Gates Foundation will fund the manufacturing of 7 of the potential ones. The US has set aside $27 billion and for vaccine development. And so I think it's really exciting that some of the testing kits are being developed in Senegal. And I think that there are a lot of other developments happening in various countries in Africa. As of May 4th, Senegal had just reported 1,271 cases, including 10 deaths. On May 3rd, they extended the state of emergency for 30 more days. And on April 20th, they had ordered that face coverings are all required in all public spaces. And then on April 16th, they extended the suspension of all international air travel through May 31st. So, and some of the other things regarding COVID-19 and what's happening in Africa, I just wanted to remind us, is someone trying to tell me something? Sorry, I've got my Word document up in front of me. Okay. That there are really amazing things happening in Africa that in many ways put them ahead of where we are. Uganda already redirected its screening efforts and systems from combating Ebola into its current interventions against COVID-19. Before they even registered their first case, they put in travel restrictions and social distancing. Rwanda was quick to act too. They, shortly after the outbreak was confirmed, they organized a committee to evaluate and bolster preparedness, and they trained 500 health workers. Somalia in March sent 20 doctors out of the country. They sent 20 doctors to Italy to help. So, you know, these are really incredible things that are happening in countries in Africa, and it helps us to rethink the way that, you know, I think it was in March that Melinda Gates said that she was afraid she assumed that there was going to be, you know, people dying on the streets in Africa. And that may happen, but starting with the assumption there instead of really looking at all of the things that many of these countries are doing that are far in advance of what we're doing, what England was doing, what France was doing, I think is something that we as Dining for Women members can really start to flip that white gaze of, you know, looking in and making assumptions about developing countries, and to dig a little further and really recognize that we have a lot to learn from these countries too. So I just wanted to bring that to the forefront. And Linda raised her hand. Linda, where are you? Linda Wagner? No, Linda Schneckenberg, where are you? I don't see you. Okay, Ellen.
That is fantastic, and I hope you will share that with the general population in like your dish or something, just a little blurb, because I wasn't aware, and I think it's fabulous to get that kind of information.
But I also want to remind you that it has come at a hard price because they went through the Ebola crisis. And so through that, they have learned some significant and remembered their lessons.
Right. Yeah. Thank you. Anybody else? Well, I just want to check in with everybody and see, is everybody healthy? You know, your family's healthy? Thumbs up if you're, you know, doing okay. People in your chapters healthy? Yeah, okay. All right, good. That's good to hear. That is really good to hear.
I live in the state of Washington, which had the first COVID case here. And so we went into, I call it staycation, really fast. And so last week we had one active case in our county. So they are lifting restrictions. So there is a dawn, there is a spring, it does come.
Okay, that is good to hear. That is fantastic. Anybody else? Has anybody like accomplished something that they're really proud of during this time?
Cleaning out
Like,
closets.
were they able to take your sourdough starter all the way to fruition? Was anybody able to do that? Because I wasn't.
I just want to say that because we're in staycation mode, our timing has slowed down. We're now more in slow motion. So we don't accomplish as much per day as when
Okay.
we are in a normal, whatever.
Megan, you were going to say something?
Yeah, I convened an unconventional socially distanced event in my rural Boulder neighborhood, which has resulted in full participation in howling every night at 8 o'clock. That's why I dashed off the screen.
That's great. Oh, I love it.
My sister in Portland inspired me, and we sat around a cul-de-sac with appropriate distance. And I really don't know my neighbors because I've lived up here a long time, but I was working so hard and doing other things. Now I'm retired and I can look after other things. But yes, that's why I dashed off the
And
screen.
now you're howling with them. So you'll have to get to know them after you howl with them, I guess.
Oh, well, we had a party.
Oh, okay.
On a cul-de-sac with this weird distance, and in the middle, and I convened the party. So, but nobody knows me, and I don't know them. And in the middle of the party, this one guy looks around and said, "Who's Megan?" I was like,
well, that's quite an accomplishment. That is great. I love that. I love that. Anybody else?
We're howling in Denver. We've been howling in Denver.
Great.
And,
Kendra, you raised your hand. You're on mute though, Kendra. Here, let me unmute you. I can't unmute you. Okay, whoops.
There we go.
Yeah.
You can hear me? Okay.
Yes.
Well, I mean, I learned how to host a Zoom meeting thanks to probably Wendy or somebody at Dining for Women that got me, you know, they sent out the how to do Zoom, and I said, well, that's fine and good, but how do you host? So she sent me the sequel, which was how to host, which wasn't really that many more steps. So I have my virtual meeting for my chapter scheduled for next Wednesday. Got the invitation out, and our chapter has a 75% technological failure rate for just trying to show the videos. So, you know, I've warned everybody that, you know, who knows, you know, it could even be higher this time, but my children are helping me. My two sons have been helping me, and one of them is going to be on the meeting, hopefully acting Wendy.
Okay, yes, that's a good idea. It's a good idea to have a Wendy.
Yes. So he's going to join me for the meeting. So, well, hopefully we'll get through it one way or the other.
That's excellent. Thank you so much to your whole chapter for going out of their comfort zones. You know, women and girls need us more than ever now. So I really appreciate those of you who are holding Zoom meetings with your chapters. Did anyone see the email last week that I sent out? And do you have any questions about it?
Which one? Which one?
Which
one was that?
About how we're changing our grants management in light of this crisis.
I missed that. I better go look for it.
Yes, it's from my email address, and we've just changed the way we've made our grants. We've informed our grantees that if they need to, their projects are now unrestricted. If in order to support themselves any way they need to get through this crisis. I can tell you at this point, we've received most of the organizations are saying we want to keep, our budget the way it is for now. They might change. But many of them are having to adjust the timing, and which is understandable. So, and then we've also, there are some other things I'm not going to go through the whole email, but go back and look at that. It's also on our website or on the blog. I guess Wendy will put a link to it so you can go check it out. Yes, Ellen. Wait, you're on mute.
Mute. Okay. I just thought I'd mention that through our regional representative, we're going to have Lisa Lyon, who was with the ETC program that we talked about. She will be visiting our virtual meeting in 2 weeks from now. So it's pretty awesome.
That's fantastic.
I just
Yeah, that's great. I'm glad you're utilizing that resource that we send out to get speakers to drop into your meetings. And it's a little bit easier now with Zoom.
Yep.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Any other questions? Well, I just want to thank everyone for being here tonight, and those of you who wanted to comment. I appreciate that, and for participating tonight. And Breege, thank you so much for presenting the program. It's wonderful to have the background of our GSC. It's really wonderful. So have a good night, everyone. We'll sign off, and remember that and next week we are going to have Judy from Grandmother Project on our meeting. So consider joining if you want to see her speak.
Yeah, that's great.
Great. Thank you so much. Love doing this.
Thank you, everyone.
Good night.
So grateful. Bye-bye.